All right, we'll call the meeting to order tonight at 6 p.m. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance.
Recording in progress.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the 30 seconds that I am the acting board chair, consideration of any changes in additions, removals to the agenda. Yes, we can correct one of my mistakes. Under business, I would like to add B, which is consider approval of the fire department 5-alarm 5K, which is scheduled for August 31st at 9 a.m. I will provide details on that when we get to it. 3, annual board reorganization. At this point, we'll take nominations for a chairman of the village trustees.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Mr. Brandt is the chair. Bob, you're shut.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I would take for elect a vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Justin.
I would second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I would like to elect a clerk of the board.
I'd make a motion to appoint Julie Nicole as a clerk of the board.
I would second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna appoint the Ludlow Enterprise Fund Committee.
Were you on that last year, Justin?
I was on the select board one. I don't remember if I was on the village one or
Yeah,
not.
I believe you were.
I'm happy to serve on that committee.
Okay,
You're gonna need a motion for that.
do we have, I would make a motion that Justin would be our committee member on the Enterprise Fund.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Time and date for regular meetings. First Tuesday.
I think we've got the first Tuesday and alternate is the third Tuesday.
Yep. And at 6 o'clock. I would take a motion to
I'll make a
adopt
motion that we
Robert's.
continue to have the meetings the first Tuesday at 6 p.m. Alternate on the next, on the third Tuesday.
I'll second that.
Sorry about that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I would make a motion we adopt Robert's Rules of Order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Come on.
I would make a motion we accept Alicia as recording secretary.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. And designate newspaper of record.
Use the Vermont Journal and secondary Rutland Herald.
I'll make a motion to appoint the Vermont Journal as the primary and the alternate as the Rutland Herald for the newspaper of record.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approve minutes from previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 5th, 2024 as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I haven't had a chance to read them, so.
I would second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from citizens. Go ahead, if you
Oh,
could.
I was gonna say, Frank, are you going to talk about the farmer's market? Yeah. Yep, so that's an actual agenda item.
Okay.
So that way it will just, you can hold it and we'll be good.
These will be just open comments
Yeah.
for miscellany.
I see none. Allocation review and possibly approve Jewel Brook LLC.
You have,
Seeking,
so sorry, you have a summary that was provided by Diane, our municipal clerk. Just kind of a brief summary of the request from Jewel Brook LLC. If you recall, we talked about this in May of 2023. It was tabled and then kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit because of the events of the summer. So this is a request really to go from the original total of 80 bedrooms to a, excuse me, what is it?
44 or something.
Yes, 44 bedrooms. So it's just nothing has been paid at this point. So I don't foresee an issue with them at this point dropping to the approving that change in allocation.
what's the pleasure of the board?
So yeah, 22 two-bedroom units.
It's a long process for these guys. I wish them well.
It has been. Yes.
I'll make a motion to adjust at least the sewer allocation, which is what we have jurisdiction
Correct.
over, from 80 beds to 44 beds.
Rooms,
Nope, it's 44
Okay.
beds.
bedrooms, like.
Yeah,
not
44
beds.
bedrooms. Sorry, that's the motel speak in me.
That motion, but should the motion include that there hasn't been a payment or is that not?
Right.
I don't know.
They haven't broken ground on that, so
They have not. This has been ongoing. It's changed a few times. It has gained a little bit more steam at this point, but this is just regarding the allocation. Again, no payment has been made regarding these allocations, so it's just the approval of the board.
Did you say
Yes,
anything?
I said that. I'd like to second that as long as we understand.
Okay.
there was nothing there.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Department head reports. Everybody's seen those. I had one question on the sewer. Is there a reason we processed 5 million gallons more this March than last March, or more people were here? Or?
Probably an influx. I think it was just an influx in usage. That
It is.
seems to be a trend each month that it is going.
It's going up.
Less ambulance calls.
It's been. I'm not going to say the Q word right now, but it's.
And I'd like to say that's great that Chris is signing up for his grade 3
Yes.
wastewater
Yeah,
exam.
they've been working hard to get that taken care of.
Anything else on department head reports? Aged receivables.
See, age receivables will still trending in the positive direction. I've entered into a few payment agreements for some of the, higher, as we've talked about, any of the higher accounts. But really regarding some of these, over 30 days is really due to the fact that we just had a billing cycle.
Yep.
But other than that, to have, really 44,000 outstanding, with half of that being just because of the billing cycle, is actually trending in a very positive way for us.
Are we able to comment on specific locations?
I can give you, without getting into the weeds, sure.
Do we have payment plans structured in place for most places most locations over 120 days delinquent?
Yes, there are a few exceptions, but it's more of a commitment issue at this point, which I would say I'm confident in completing. But they won't be listed, obviously, if if there's a payment plan in place, it's not reflected on the amount, but I can say that a majority of them have payment plans.
Great.
Okay. Discussion, review of changes to village zoning bylaws.
That's you.
On Zoom if you want me to share. Clients here too. Okay, so I sent you guys, probably didn't have time to read it because I think I sent it at 3:00, a summary of the changes that have been made. It's not just this planning commission that made these changes, but it's like the last 4 or something that are involved in redoing this village zoning. COVID and all kinds of other stuff happened in between. All these changes have been vetted by Chris Callahan, our zoning lawyer, which is pretty much why we didn't make our deadline, because we had to have him go through the whole document, and then we had to meet a couple times to go over his suggestions. So the first section that we have a change in is section 220 on zoning permits. We added a permit shall be required for any interior structural alteration, including but not limited to a change in the number of bedrooms. So that's language we added to section 220.
Are we gonna do this per section? Speak through?
Or do you want to just tell me if you have something you want?
I think if the board has any questions, obviously nothing's going to be approved tonight. So I think Terry, if she can give us a brief overview of it or answer any, pending questions that the board has right now. That's
Yes, I don't need to read it all.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you have to read it section by section, but maybe just some of the high points, and if the board has any questions.
Mrs. Carter, on section 220 of the zoning permit shall be required for any interior structural alteration, meaning a closet, meaning
Mostly bedrooms because of the sewer allocations in the village. And
I love the idea of understanding the bedrooms. In last night's meeting, I read a planning commission write-up that was great, that we were able to catch people turning dens into bedrooms and more beds in a certain bedroom. This language scares me though. The permit shall be required for any interior structural alteration. That's a bit intrusive in my opinion.
you can change it. We're bringing you our proposition, and now it's in your hands to put it any way that you want it. That was something that Rose had wanted us to put in. Is that right, Rose?
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit on that if you like. The other part of that is getting back to, we were kind of talking about condos and how we're really having a tough time adequately valuing them. So this would also help us follow gut renovations in any flips that will adversely affect our CLA, common level of appraisal. So, it's tough for us, and it's tough for me as the assessor to say, there's no permit required for, and someone could buy a house for $500,000 and put $1 million on the inside of it, and there's no documentation required, and then they go and sell that, and it adversely affects the whole town. So that's more of what we're trying to follow and to avoid, especially where we have 1,100 condos where it's only interior renovations and there's no permits required for any of the work that they do up there. That's more of the bigger picture of this, but definitely change of use in bedroom changes as well.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Silvestri in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe condos turn over at a higher rate usually than a single dwelling home or a business or something like that.
Yeah, they tend to sell more frequently.
If that's the case, and if section 220 is more pertained towards condos or towards resales, is there language that we can add that might not be, a permit shall be required for any interior structural alteration, maybe a little bit more concise?
So there are other towns that use language like renovations exceeding $10,000 in cost, but once you get to a threshold of cost, obviously there's going to be manipulation there, So it's tough. It's you can obviously dial it back and probably still get some positive out of it, but I think as written would be the most influential to stopping that issue. But I absolutely see it's interior permitting is not popular, but where we're in a resort town, it's typically the renovations I see where, there's no permit, there's no footprint, and there's no increase to the footprint, there's no change of use, but the value goes from, 400,000 to 1.4 million. And we have no way of monitoring that or following it. And this would allow us to do that.
Mr. Jowdy, you're here this evening. What kind of undue burden would this put on the zoning department?
Actually, this
If
would
any.
be Jared Jowdy, zoning department, town of Ludlow, village of Ludlow. So this would not put a burden on the zoning department. It would assist us because we have concerns over the number of bedrooms versus the number of sewer allocations, whether it's village or state, or both. We find that a lot of people decide to turn offices and dens or try to build with extra bedrooms that they're allocated for. And the only way we find them is when they put them on the market and, or if somebody might just mention something, which is far and few between. So, I think it's a good thing, for the zoning department and for the village, for the town, for homeowners remodeling. Normally we get also consultation from the state fire marshal. So he'll let us know if he also needs a construction permit. But aside from that, we're in favor of adding this language.
Thank you. Do you guys do walkthroughs anytime a condo sells? We don't have the manpower for that, correct?
I don't have the authority, so I can go and knock on the door. There's typically not going to be an owner there, and they're not going to grant me entry, so we can't inspect properties without owner approval. And so all the condo associations are pretty uniform in adamantly not letting me in any of the units. So, and so kind of an aside, all the condo associations, they're aware of all the improvements being made because they're on a principal insurance. So they're not going to allow any work to be done on any unit without it being an insured contractor, because it will go against their insurance premiums. Yep. So it's kind of been a game of cat and mouse, and we kind of spoke about some other tactics that we may use in the statistical reappraisal, if we choose to do that for 26, to equalize the condo values, but they are the biggest influence to the CLA, where we're undervaluing them greatly because we're unaware of the huge renovations that they do on the interiors.
There's no recourse for the town to require the COAs to proffer that information.
This would be the way. This would be that mechanism. So as of now, there isn't.
I'm nervous of the blanket language myself, but I understand the need for it.
Yep.
Thank you. Scott, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, so next section 224, expiration of permit. We had to change this because it had said that they could be null and void after 1 year, and the state regs just changed that they can't be, that you have to wait the whole 2 years if they haven't completed the project to make it null and void. So all we did here was take out the part that said after 1 year, if they haven't started anything, their permit is null and void. We had to take that out. Does anybody have any questions on that one?
No, not for me.
Okay, section 255, admin review. This is something new. This is a new section. It was part of our grant with regional, that we would streamline the permitting process by making it easier to get permits by having some things that were conditional brought up into permitted uses. But Rose weighed in on this and said she felt like more than one set of eyes needed to be on a lot of the things the regional wanted us to move up into the permitted thing. So the only thing that she said she didn't see a reason is if you took a existing retail use and you took it into another retail use, she saw that as being a permitted use and not a conditional use. That was a conditional use before. Because she said with their lack of manpower, it would be impossible, and lack of fire inspections and all that stuff, to move everything that they had wanted to. So this is the thing that we moved into the zoning administrator's hands.
think that's great. You're speaking of, for example, a gift shop goes to an art gallery.
Exactly.
Sure.
Okay, next section, 260.3, general standards. This is something we had to do because the state regs that a multi-unit dwelling project consisting of 4 or fewer units located in a district allowing multi-unit dwellings shall not be denied solely due to undue adverse effect on the character of the area. People can't pull that character of the area card anymore on anything. But this is how it applies to our language in the village. 290 affordability requirement. We basically just replaced the latest state language, and because of the new zoning from the state, we had to put in that different specific things you can do when you're building affordable housing. 15% of all the units developed must be affordable if you're doing like a planned unit development. And you can add an extra floor as long as it passes the Vermont Fire and Safety Building Codes. And you can also build 40% more if you're providing affordable housing. So we had to add that in.
I know you don't work for the state, so pardon my question if you can't answer it. Does that mean if somebody wants to come in and say, develop a 15-unit townhouse apartment complex, 15% of those units have to be affordable housing?
I think that that's not true because this applies to new builds and planned unit developments, and they're usually, I think they have to be 10 acres or more. I think that's correct.
Okay.
So it wouldn't apply to that. But we have put language in that has already passed through these boards that said if you were building new, one out of every 5 had to be affordable housing. So we already put that in, but now the state has put this in for the first time. So we have actually more stringent language than they have here. Okay, section 410 in the preservation district, we had to change the density from 10,000 square feet to 8,412 square feet, which is 1/5 acre zoning because of the new state regs. We changed the amount of area you can develop in the preservation district from 12% to 65%. That's not a state reg change. That was a change that my board wanted. We had to move the 2-unit dwellings and the multi-unit dwellings and the accessory dwelling units to permitted uses to align with the state regs in the preservation district. We chose to add the farmer's market to the permitted uses. And we added language about how different materials could be used as long as you kept the character of the preservation district, and also that solar panels are allowed. In the old language, it says that they're not allowed. And the state actually overrides that anyway.
I have a couple questions about 410, if I may, Ms.
Yeah.
Carter.
Sure.
The density from 10,000 square foot to 8412, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but how much of the area is developed currently? If you're talking 12% to 65%, do we have the numbers of what's currently developed?
I don't have those figures on what is currently developed. But we have to change to 10,000 square feet. We don't have a choice there.
Yep.
But actually, our lawyer said it doesn't actually say 1/5 acre zoning. It says if you have 1 acre, you can put up 5 dwellings. But we don't really know what to do with that because what's the guideline for if you have less than 1 acre? So, that's a kind of a gray area. And when I brought that up to regional, they were like, you're not taking into account the intent of the state, and I had some strangle language for me when we suggested we put that in there instead.
In regards to the solar panels being allowed in the preservation district, is that only on roofs? Is that
It's anywhere? The state of Vermont overrules that now. Anybody that wants to do alternative energy can do whatever they want, according to state regs now. That was something that I know Alan Isaacson, I'm not sure who else, but on that board, they were very against solar panels in the preservation district. And that's how they ended up there in the first place.
not very preservation-like to me, but okay.
But I guess they would have to use materials at least that camouflaged it and, that kind of thing. The next section that we made changes to is the village residential section. Same thing, state regs required us to put the multi-unit dwellings and the accessory dwelling units and the accessory structures to permitted uses. The density was at 5,000 square feet. I told this board incorrectly that it was at 1/4 acre zoning. I don't know when that happened. I know I had some time in Waterbury where I missed a couple meetings, but it was at 5,000 square feet, which is less than an eighth of an acre. We could bump it up to 8,712 square feet if we wanted to, which I would like to suggest we do that, because now that we're going to have 1 to 4 unit dwellings anywhere people want to put them, just with a permit, as long as they meet setbacks and everything, I think what that affects on the village is going to be a lot. And if we not bumped up the density, but lowered the density to 1/5 acre instead of less than 1/8, I think we could counteract what's going to happen with those, being allowed to put up 1 to 4 unit dwellings.
May I ask you a question, Ms. Carter?
Yeah.
Last year, I think the April meeting, 2023, the planning commission came to this board and I think proposed the 5,000 square foot, which was outright rejected.
No, we
amongst the
proposed
board.
the 1/5 acre, and it was outright rejected because it was everybody understood. I understood it to be 1/4 acre, but it wasn't. Right now, it's at less than 1/8 of an acre on the
Okay.
current zoning regs.
I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'm solely in the corner of bringing it to 8,712 square foot, not 5,000.
I can make these changes that you want to make and send the document to you to make sure you got it. We got it correctly. It doesn't go back to our board. Now it's in your hands as to what you want to do with it.
That's my opinion on it.
I concur with that.
Same
More
here.
in line with the consideration unit.
So you have 3 village trustee members wanting
Okay,
that to be
so I'll
changed.
make that change.
Thank you.
Okay, the next section is the Village R2. This is a new district that we created a couple of falls ago. We had people from Andover Street coming to us, quite a few people actually, that including Jean, who's here today, outraged at the idea that that empty lot was going to be a hotel with 75 rooms, which, prompted us to consider rezoning it residential. And as we took a look at that street and what little room there is for any kind of residential thing like professional offices and stuff, we decided to create this new district that focuses on housing. And I sent you guys a chart that shows you the difference between Village R and Village R2. Basically, we just took out anything that wasn't housing. And we already have this district at the 1/5 acre zoning.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, you want mine? Just like this. Oh yeah, you had it right there.
Yeah, so this is the proposed, and this is what it currently is, which is just regular residential. This is what you proposed.
And actually, we might not want to leave auto service station in there. We just kept that in there because of Tony's garage, and Dave Rose, that was a former trustee, told us he wouldn't accept it if we didn't leave Tony's garage in there.
Well, I mean, if you rezone this district, that would be, in theory, grandfathered in. You wouldn't.
Yeah, but he would never be able to. Dave was concerned he'd never be able to expand, or.
I mean, that business has been here for.
Yeah, and he's my
35
mechanic,
years,
and I don't
so.
want to piss him off, so. He's a really nice guy.
I like solely residential districts. I think that that's important to keep the integrity of the town.
Well, I actually asked the board if they would be willing to add Thompson Avenue, Ryan Avenue, Large Heights, and Okemo Heights, because I feel like they have the same sort of chemistry of just residences in those neighborhoods. But the regional people told me the maps couldn't be redrawn in time, and I couldn't get all my board members to agree. But Ted agreed with me about Orion and Thompson Avenue, because he grew up on Orion Avenue.
I live on High Street.
Yeah,
It's a very residential neighborhood.
definitely is.
So it's Smith Street and.
Yeah, Smith Street's actually part of residential commercial.
I knew that one, because of the river.
But if you accepted this new district and you wanted to expand it, it's up to you.
I'm actually, I would be in favor of doing the Village R2 district.
I agree with that.
Are you in favor of it just being Andover Street or adding any of those other streets?
I think just Andover Street
Okay,
off the bat.
it's kind of an experiment maybe.
That's just me though. I don't.
Okay, the next section is section 430, which is village residential commercial. Same deal, we had to put the multi-unit dwellings for or fewer, the accessory dwelling units and structures. We had to move that to permitted uses. The density in that district is at 5,000 square feet. As I said again, it could be 8,712 square feet. It still meets state regs. I don't know if you want to do that with the commercial parts, but you might want to do that with residential parts and not the commercial parts. And we kept in all the COVID outdoor dining regs, which were agreed upon during COVID by all the boards and by the village board that affected the village.
Small point about the COVID outdoor dining regulations. Love them. I think that this makes the town more pedestrian friendly, opens up our businesses to outdoor where we have a great view of the hill. The one thing that I'm concerned about is ADA accessibility on the sidewalks and being able to travel those sidewalks unimpeded.
Yeah, me too.
Is there language in those regs regarding that?
Do you remember that?
Yeah, you have to require 6 foot pathways.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Our sidewalks are abnormally wide already. I think there was only just like 1 or 2 sections where it didn't, that we looked at. Okay, our next section is, so what's your pleasure on village residential commercial? Do you want to bump up the residential part to the 1/5 acre and leave the commercial at less than an 1/8 acre square feet, or what's your pleasure on that?
I don't mind keeping the commercial at 5,000.
No,
So-
I don't either. I think that's good.
Yeah,
Commercial at 5,000 and residential at
8712.
8712?
Julie.
I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to follow along here.
I feel bad for the farmer's market. They got to wade through all this.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, section 520, which is the miscellaneous requirements. We made this one change in that section. There may be more than one principal use on a lot within the village RC district. Like you might have somebody living upstairs and a business downstairs. We want to make sure we put that in there. It wasn't in there before.
Multi-use buildings.
Yeah, and that was part of our grant too, that encourage multi-use buildings where there's village water and sewer. Okay, section 530, which is parking and loading requirements. Our new state regs say we did have 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. They said we can't have more than 1. It's their one-size-fits-all thing, even though in our survey, everybody said parking is a problem, especially in the winter. Except in areas that are located more than 1/4 mile from public parking, we basically just cut and pasted in this new state requirements for that. And in which case 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling units are required, which Judy was like, what the heck is 1.5 parking spaces? But anyway, that's what the state regs say.
Motorcycle.
So that's what we said, a motorcycle. So there's not much we can do about that. We added in the workforce housing section that we had in this, when we brought it to that board before, as required by the DRB in required districts. In the commercial district, 1 parking spot required per bedroom. You know, if you have an apartment house or whatever. What else am I going to tell you about this? We did not change the parking in the commercial districts, but we put in language so that not having parking won't keep you from being able to open your business. You can count parking on the street, you can count parking in the municipal lots. We want to encourage business and keep the downtown vital, but we also don't want to lose the existing parking like we have like behind the pub and Avishans, and so we don't want to take out all parking requirements for commercial. It wasn't something the state was regulating us to do because we don't want to lose our current parking because we're never going to get it back. Does anybody have any questions or about parking? Okay, section 540 signs. This section is completely reworked and changed. It was worked on by previous Planning commissions, which I was part of too. This board tweaked a few things. We added clarifying language in a couple places, and we specifically added to the prohibited signs, repetitive flags or pennants, and signs with profanity. Our lawyer said that we could put in that signs with profanity, but we probably can't enforce it because of free speech. But he said it doesn't hurt to put it in there.
What prompted the reworking of the sign section?
It was something Rose worked on us intensively before she had that long leave of absence. She worked with the board.
It's funny, I feel like the signs aren't really an issue. I see that Video Stop still has a sign up from 25 years ago on Shaw's.
Yeah, well, they're grandfathered in.
But we're worried about, different types of signs, and just seems not very important to me. I don't know, it's just me.
I think because your signs for your business are classy, but I don't know if you ever go down
Not
Route
necessarily
100,
about
you see
my businesses.
see the signs on that, when you go down the bottom of Granville Hill there, you see the signs in that little quick stop, like Genesee, Budweiser, you can end up with all those signs everywhere,
Well, those are banned because they're
Internally
neon and
lit.
internally lit.
which is part of this whole new sign language too. But some are grandfathered, so there you go. So that is a whole section. I don't know if you want to bump that to another meeting to go through the entire section. I can pull it up on the computer if you want to go through the whole thing.
It was thorough. I felt that was a thorough section. I read it today.
And you definitely don't want signs that distract drivers and
You don't
take
want
their
flashing
attention.
signs. We obviously don't want billboards or large signs. We don't want neon signs crowding our streets.
And a lot of those sign regs are state regs too
Mm-hmm.
that are in there.
Just curious as to why those were. They were changed quite a bit, I think.
Yeah.
More robust.
It's basically a whole new section. Okay, the next section is 550.1 noise. Our lawyer, Chris Callahan, our zoning lawyer, suggested we add this, and we made a whole new section for it. 550.9, individuals share a private right for recourse by filing a nuisance complaint with the police or the district court. He said that a lot of people in town don't think that there is a noise ordinance, but there is, and it is enforceable.
Now, most people don't have a decibel reader, do they?
Exactly, and our sign, and that's something that Jared would like us to take a look at because our entire noise section is based on decibel levels. Maybe we could at least put some examples of decibel levels in there.
And was this brought about because of establishments being open later? Was there numerous complaints?
I think it's numerous complaints about Airbnbs. Article 6, floodplain management ordinance. As we get toward the end of our time to work on this, we took a look at this floodplain management, and also Chris Callahan encouraged us to take a look at it. It's 10 years old, and it needs to be completely redone, and we're working on that right now. Our last meeting was to look at the new state stuff, and we have a lot of questions for Jason. He's going to attend our next meeting to talk about whether those are already FEMA approved, and we're going to take a look at the old section and make sure we're not leaving anything out. But one thing we did change in this zoning is Rose wanted us to change the height requirement for fuel tanks. I mean, they're telling we have to have like 4 feet off the ground, and propane companies are refusing to fill them because they have to like show up with a ladder and stuff. So as long as they are anchored, securely anchored, there's no problem with them being on the ground. So that's what she wanted us to put in there, and we did. And then the last section is Article 7 definitions. Many of these definitions are updated. They're state definitions. Many were eliminated. We spent a lot of time working on this. Martha, every month, she had more and more for us to take a look at. Some we created when we created the workforce housing. And then some were taken out because they didn't exist anywhere in the document. That language wasn't anywhere in the document. And then I just wanted to tell you that currently we're going to start working next month on a junkyard ordinance. I made a copy of it for all my PC members today to send to them. And I know you, the boards, make ordinances, we don't, but Brandon asked us to take a look at that. And we're also gonna work on an energy section, but when we started working on it, well, we were gonna work on it last month. Noah Schmidt pointed out it's 5 years old. I did some research with Chris Eagleton at Regional, and she said that there isn't anything new, but there's gonna be something new at the end of this year, so we may put off working on that, but currently don't even have an energy section in the village. And the one in the town is old and not that great. And that's about all we got here.
Mrs. Carter, thank you. One question I had for you is, did you ever get a new laptop for your position?
No, I didn't, but I did download a new version of Word, but my laptop's so old it doesn't work. I had to delete it.
Mr. McNamara, I would like to get the planning chair a laptop, whether that's through the village budget solely or split between the town select board. They can discuss that at a future date.
And it would just go with the chair, because who knows, next month we're reorganizing, so we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I know all your changes, but you guys can send emails if you have anything else before I send you what I hope is the final copy.
Yeah, you did a lot of work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a great update.
Okay. Discussion, action regarding farmers market on Depot Street.
So this is, we talked about this at that was February meeting? March. Beginning of March regarding having a farmer's market, was proposed having a farmer's market on Depot Street on Sunday mornings, and closing Depot Street during that time frame in the morning. Went through some of the discussion at the first meeting. Since that point, we've had a number of letters in support, letters in opposition. So at this point, it's come to the board to make the decision regarding approval or denial of that project, or project farmers market for that time. I guess at this point, if the chair recognizes people that wish to speak, to provide information before the vote, probably now's the time to do it.
Yeah. Frank?
And you should all have any letters that were provided from various parties. You have that, anything that has come to me, that's been shared with you.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, sure.
Okay.
We do have them in our packet.
No, I believe these are different letters
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
he's
I
going
didn't
to
see the,
read into record. So this is the first I've got. But Mr. Ellison's going to read them.
Okay.
Hi, Frank Ellison, 5 Meadow Street here in Ludlow. And got the letters that you've got, I want them read tonight. And my niece has graciously agreed to read those to us tonight, Laura Greaser. She's a much better reader than I am.
Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, everybody. Can I bring this down? How's that? So, so I'm Laura Creaser, 351 East Lake Road in Ludlow, and I'm reading these letters for, the first one says, the first one is by Frank, actually, and it says, Dear Board Members, I have recently been informed that the Ludlow Farmers Market is trying to move to Depot Street on Sundays this year. From my understanding, their hope is to close down Depot Street from the traffic light all the way to Pleasant Street. If allowed, this would directly impact my property rights and my tenants' rights. Closing Depot Street for the Ludlow Farmers Market would in turn close off the main access point to my building, 156 Main Street, what is directly behind us here. For me and my tenants, as the entrance to the parking lot is on Depot Street, it would dramatically impact my tenants' lives by limiting their mobility, their accessibility, and their privacy. Furthermore, the increase in noise from the trucks, vendors, patrons, and live music would infringe on my tenants' rights to live peacefully. This is a not This is not a one-time event like the chili cook-off. This event would be every weekend for the entire summer and early fall. Weekends are when my tenants are home most often, enjoying a break from the work week. Plus, my building is not the only apartment building or place of residence in this neighborhood. With this move to Depot Street, the farmers market would be impacting the lives of other residents and property owners in this neighborhood. It is not fair to change the integrity of an entire neighborhood by prioritizing the interest of one organization. So I strongly encourage you to deny the Ludlow Farmers Market permission to move to Depot Street and help them find a more appropriate location for their market. Sincerely, Frank Ellison. The second one that you have is written by Alfredo and Doris Alvalos. And it says, Dear board members, we have recently been told that the Ludlow Farmers Market is trying to move to Depot Street on Sundays this year, closing down the street from the traffic light to Pleasant Street. This would close the entrance to my parking from Depot Street, limiting my accessibility to our parking space, which is provided in our rental, plus the temptation to others to park here when they feel present. Also of major concern is the noise. The increase in noise from the marketplace activities will not be a welcome addition to our Sundays. We hope you, the board, will take our concerns into consideration as residents of Ludlow Village and not allow the farmers market to move here. It is not fair for their interests to supersede the interest of the local village residents. Thank you, Dolores and Alfred Alvarez. And the last one is written by Joseph Collette. To whom it may concern, it is rumored that the farmers market may be moved to Depot Street this summer, thus closing Depot Street to vehicle traffic on a weekly basis. I live at 156 Main Street, and the entrance to the building parking lot is on Depot Street. Recently, the street was blocked off for the farmers market fundraiser event, and a visitor parked in my parking spot and was visibly annoyed when I asked him to move his vehicle. There are plenty of no parking signs, but most people still choose to ignore them and do not realize that the tenants are assigned particular spots. This incident made me contemplate the safety for myself and for other residents of this building. There are several elderly people who reside in the building, and they may be affected by the congestion of the weekly event and could potentially place lives at risk if emergency services are not able to access the parking lot and building. There are also concerns of litter and trash being left behind, as well as the disturbance of the peace by the noise, exhaust, and commotion of access traffic, as well as pedestrians walking through and hanging out in our parking lot. The farmers market was also held on a 1+ acre lot with parking now proposed to be moved to the equivalent of less than 1/3 of an acre. I am not in favor of moving the market to such a confined space and oppose this idea for the aforementioned reasons. Perhaps it should be moved to the municipal lot behind TPW or at the Okemo Field where the Chamber of Commerce Summer Festival is held, near Burtco Storage. Respectively, Joseph Collette.
Thank you.
My name's Tara O'Neill, and I live in the Ellis Block. And my concern is because my elderly mother lives with me. My concern is that the congestion with the cars, I have to say, even with the out-of-staters and the skiers, it can be very congested with the cars and people parking in our parking lots. And I've had to, at one point, park way over, almost near the DJ's parking lot and walk my mother up to our apartment because someone was parked in my parking spot, and she's 87 years old. My concern is that I think it's just too congested an area to put the farmer's market. I mean, I am in awe at what the Chili Fest can do in that small space that they do, but it's just one day, and I think it's like 4 hours. And even that is congested because we still have people parking in our parking spots. And I don't know what he's done everything to try and have people not park in our parking spots. And it is it's in our rent, it's in our lease, and it may sound frivolous, but I pay for that parking. And it can be, to me, not just for me, it's more so with my mom to have people park there. It's inconvenient and it's for her safety. I don't think that's good. And then I also worry about if something were to happen. I've only had to call the rescue squad once for my mom when she had COVID. But when you have elderly people in your building, these are the things that you consider. If something were to happen, how would, the rescue squad get in or something like that? So, I just think it's too congested for that small space. And like everyone has said, or the people that have read letters or written letters, it infringes upon our ability to live there. And, that's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emma Wright. I'm the market manager and the board president for the farmers market. First, I just want to say thank you for addressing your concerns. And I want to let the people know that have concerns that we do hear you. And if the market were to be approved for Depot Street, we absolutely want to be able to work with you. We're willing to make a lot of adjustments in order to make this a positive experience for everybody who's living on that block. We hosted the fundraiser recently. It was incredibly successful. We were so thrilled with the amount of people that came out to support the farmers market. We exceeded our goal tremendously for fundraising. We were hoping to gain about $3,000. We raised over $5,500 and were able to sell out our tickets. So many of our donations were actually additional to ticket sales or raffle prizes. And to some of the businesses that have had concerns, we have sent them letters that have been approved by our board of directors on how we might help mitigate those problems. How can we keep your spaces clear? How can we make sure trash is cleared away? And in the instance of this lot that tenants are living in, we can absolutely make sure that there are no vendors parked there in case emergency services need to come in. We're happy to put these things in writing. It was my understanding that parking lot is accessible from the opposite side. And I apologize if we were not considering that properly. But a farmer's market is integral to a community. A study from the University of Michigan some years ago said that local businesses had increased foot traffic by 60% from having a farmer's market located central to town. And I hear the request sometimes for us or not request, but suggestion to move to the municipal lot behind Brewfest. But that's one of the one parking places in town. And we worry as an organization that if we take up that one place for our patrons to go, then that will clog up the remainder of parking lots and businesses in town and impede that function. So what we're trying to do is make this an accessible experience for everyone, a community experience for everyone, and give our local businesses a chance to put their product forward in a place where they may not ordinarily be able to. So what I want to say most of all is that if our consideration is approved, we are willing to work with you. We have demonstrated that we're willing to work with you, and we're here to support you too, is just as much as we are requesting your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not just the concern with the parking, it's the concern with the noise and the congestion that's going to be there. That's very important to us too. As you can see from my tenants, the farmers market issue is very concerning to them and to me. Renting the apartments is my livelihood. It's how I make my money. It's how I pay for my groceries. It's how I pay my bills. As Ludlow trustees, you're not here to represent the farmers market organization. You're here to represent the village residents of Ludlow, which I am one and my tenants are one. And I hope you will agree with me and my tenants that the farmers market to pick a more appropriate and less controversial location for their marketplace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak before we jump in?
Daniel Childs, owned a home here about 3 years ago, been here about 6 years now. And I just wanted to say that I think what we're trying to say is this is a good thing. We're trying to make a good thing happen here. And these ladies are working really hard. 2 intelligent ladies, young, trying to make something happen. That's good. And I think, we need to help them out a little bit. And I hear concerns of safety, and I think that, that's valid. But we're talking about a Sunday, 4 hours, and it's for a good thing. I think music and vendors and people getting together is a great thing for business, great thing for tenants. It's a great thing for this town. So I just wanted to say I think we should make this happen.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Amanda Taylor. So I spent a lot of time over here with my aunt across the way with my elderly grandmother trying to get her to and from. That's awesome that you guys want to be very involved in the community and put something on because the town does need more and it needs a more sense of community and everything like that. But I think there's better places to host it that are more safe, and it leaves it so that a main access to tons of businesses and tenants are not paying tenants are not cut off, like Dorsey Park maybe could be used, or the West Hill Rec, where there's a huge parking lot, tons of space for people to walk around, maybe more space for parking. We can eliminate some of that. So I think your intentions are awesome. A farmer's market's great for this town. I think that we just need to brainstorm as a community what is going to be safe for everybody involved.
Thank you. Did you have a point?
Go ahead, Frank.
I don't know how many hours this is going to be, but there's going to be 2 hours to set up, and it's going to be these hours, and it's going to be 2 hours afterwards to set down. So it's going to be an all-day event.
Thank you.
I want to clarify. Our operating hours, we'd like them to be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We only need an hour on either side of that, so we can clear the street by 2 p.m. I also neglected to mention that vendors will not be parking on the street. Part of the benefit of having a market on a street in town is that you have more room for vendors. We would like to have vendor parking at a different location. I've personally vended this way many times. Back in my home state, you drive through, drop off your stuff, go park somewhere else that's guaranteed for you, and we'll work with the town or work with our vendors to find out what that will be. And I also wanted to mention that we don't have, is regarding noise and other problems that may come from the farmers market. We absolutely don't have to have music be projected. We don't need to have generators. We are absolutely willing to work with local noise ordinances, et cetera, to make sure that we're not an intrusive and obstructive force in town. I think that was the only point I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Wait 1 second. Could you repeat the hours that you said you'd be working?
9 a.m. to 1 p.m. would be our operating hours. And we only need an hour buffer on either side of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Abby Childs, 320 East Lake Road, and Ludlow Farmers Market Board member. I just want to bring it to everyone's attention that we have looked at many other locations, and we've had a lot of issues arise from other locations as well. So I think no matter where we put it, we will have issues, and we will have people that don't like it, and that's okay. But I think we have to use what knowledge we have best and pick the best situation for everybody involved. So thank you for your time today and for acknowledging our efforts.
Thank you.
Any thoughts from the board?
I wasn't at the last meeting as a member, but I was in the public. And I do listen to people's concerns. I live in the village too. Have you looked at like Black River High School lawn that we own, the town? It has incredible parking.
We're trying to move away from lawn spaces, given the events of last year, lawns can get a little wet and they're hard to vend on. Not only that, but you can't have, car traffic on there. It's a little bit harder for vendors to be able to carry their stuff onto a lawn. I've vended that way before too. It's a lot harder. And we have vendors of all different ages, abilities, et cetera. We want to make it the most accessible market possible. And that's another reason for our drive to be able to put this in the center of town. Is not only is it more accessible for our vendors, but it can be more accessible for patrons as well. So this is, to Abby's point, that we have explored a lot of options, and there's going to be either logistical issues with all the options that we consider, as well as, personal business issues as well. But that is one of our main reasons for steering away from a park location.
I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you.
was just talking about like the old high school. You know how there's all that concrete and everything there.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you're not saying the lawn space?
No, on the concrete area, all that area.
Okay.
The town owns it, as far as I know. The
Yes.
high school area. I'm just asking. I don't.
Yeah, like behind the high school.
Yeah, like even in that whole area, because I know that's not used on Sundays. There's very limited residential.
One of our
like kind of like where the community center is, the armory and all that area.
Another driving force for us, we've been in contact with our advisors at NOFA, Vermont Farmers Market Association as well. And a lot of the conversation centers around who is the market accessible to and who are you eliminating, depending on where you put your market as far as patrons go. And I'm just considering this option for the first time. So this is me just talking as my initial reaction, but putting it behind, and part of the reason with OMS being maybe not the best location was that you're not as accessible to everybody. It takes a little bit more manpower to get people in, and we're also on track to accept SNAP benefits and EBT. We're on track to accept crop cash, which is another similar Vermont initiative, and we want to be as visible and accessible as possible. So we are, willing to hear those things, but that's just my initial response to that thought.
Thank you. When we first heard about this, we don't have a grocery store. And I said, my gosh, how great would it be to have clean food accessible? And then, we started understanding that some people aren't for it. Some people are for it. Our job here as the trustees is to do what's best for our village that I live in, that Mr. Brandt lives in, and that Ms. Nicole lives in, and that you all are a part of. We have to take in factors of business. How do we support our businesses? How do we support tenants? How do we support property owners? How do we support citizens of this village that wish to have access to food when we don't necessarily have a grocery store, and we might not for a while longer? So all these things play, and I've been thinking a lot about it. We have salient points on no and salient points on yes. Mr. McNamara,
Sure.
How does the right-of-way work around the bank, around DJ's, around the Ellison block? What does that look like? Is it two-way? Is it a right-of-way?
I believe it's a two-way. It's not town properties. So
Yeah, it's a privately owned right-of-way.
Yeah, it's privately owned, and my understanding that it's two-way, but I'm not necessarily in my purview.
Right away, it's just from the other bank.
Just for your property in the bank?
My right away is permissive right away, so the bank can get it done. So my true access is off you.
That's your main access. Now, in terms of safeguarding private property, which Mr. Ellison's parking lot is private property, I see people parking there all the time, and I'm sure that wouldn't happen if we were proactive and cordoned it off and did all those things. But is that right away going to be able to have emergency services go in there? What do the emergency services think of this proposal?
Both the ambulance chief and chief of police we've had conversations with, and did not voice any concerns. Obviously there are bigger concerns. They have access to the buildings, yes. is the influx of people. The influx of people in their capacity in dealing with what they look at, which is, different than what, tenants may look at, and is minimal compared to what the influx of traffic is here during the winter. So that's kind of, we look at it we were looking at that with Jeff and Stephanie from a logistical standpoint.
Of course.
The other thing is the number of people that have to get over to there on Main Street and walk all around my building, all the way back to get there. So it's going to be Sunday, this chaos. And on Sunday afternoon, I tend to enjoy quiet. It's really concerning.
You've raised some good points about the safety issues, and I would imagine that when Mr. McNamara, the town manager, spoke with the head of the ambulance service and the head of the chief of police, that those, I would imagine, were discussed.
Again, when we look at it from a logistical standpoint and how they provide services, there was no red flags that go up. Again, there'll be an influx of people there, but on a Sunday or a Saturday in December, there's 20,000 people here. So it's not uncommon that they deal with an influx of people is what I'm getting at. Any situation, and it's brought up that there is any situation where, yes, there could be obstacles that are presented, but that could be any day of the week for emergency services. That's what they're trained for. So ideally, you want to eliminate those. So I hear what people are saying, but from initial, the letters and everything and the proposal, there were no concerns that were brought up that were like, this is an immediate red flag. That was from the PD. And obviously, we've been, it does, I won't say that it taxes, it changes our services because they have to be aware and they adapt to what's going on. Yes, there's going to be more people on Depot Street, possibly, which they would have to navigate to get to a call at the Ellison building. They would have to navigate to get to a call if there's a medical emergency in the street. That's a very real possibility. Population goes up, the likelihood of a medical call happening. That's going to happen. That's what they're trained to do. So again, is there an immediate concern that when, we look at some things and Stephanie or Jeff says, this is a non-starter? No. Obviously it entails a little bit more work, a little more logistical planning in case of an emergency. But as I said, for myself, this is the same thing for me. This entails more work for us. But that's what, as a municipal employee, that's what we're here to do. So
I want this to be a cohesive thing. We're a small community, and I actually find a great importance for farmers markets, access to clean food, community building, strengthening our relationships with one another, making the village more pedestrian friendly, bringing in more eyes and buyers to local businesses. All those things are, I think, net benefits. But I want to respect property rights, and I understand the safety issues. And I think there's got to be some sort of common ground with an understanding. I hope that we can seal off the right-of-way. I hope that we can seal off the parking lot. The gentleman.
I don't see how you're going to do that. If people are going to park, it doesn't matter even about all the vendors parking. Not even worry about the vendor parking. You're going to have people trying to park in the parking spot regardless. People are going to the parking spot.
I understand. Just let me finish my point, please. We have these issues and we understand them, but we can block places off. We can make that happen, I believe. If we couldn't, chief of police would have said something. And I understand that there was a vendor that was parked there and was kind of rude to the gentleman, I forget his name in the letter, the retired police officer. Those are unacceptable, and it's unfortunate that it happened. But there's got to be ways that we block off private property. Mr. Dockham.
I would like to clarify something. I was the gentleman that moved the vehicle. I was no way rude to the property renter by any means. It was one of the people that were here to help us that evening, vendors. He couldn't move the vehicle. I went over and I moved it, and I was very polite. By no means was I rude.
So how, Frank, how does this work when they have the chili cook-off, or the other night when we had the special event for the farmers market? That was a short duration of time. The chili cook-off is more of an all-day thing, correct?
Yeah.
How does that?
Well, it's very, very loud, very noisy. We came over my parking lot, which it's the fundraisers for the Rotary Club. So I give them a couple places so they can have their food and bring their tent stuff in.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one time, it's I'm worried about every Saturday, Sunday, excuse me, through the whole summer and into the early part of fall. It's like a third of the year. They're gonna have this going on. One time it's okay, it's noisy, it's chaotic, it's one day. You move on. This going all the time, I think it's really encouraging the heart. Quietness and peacefulness of here, and all these people walking around, and just it's a bad location. And we got a big town, big community, there's other alternatives. They could choose, and it would cause all this conflict.
If I may, if something that we do as an organization is to staff that area and control it, that's also something that we're going to do through advocate positions or volunteers. So you have the ability to do. I just want to put that offering out there.
I don't think the village trustees or the town should be involved in negotiations between property owners and the farmers market. So no matter what this board decides, if we approve it or if we deny it, it's for use of the road. And I would hope that as a community we could come together, whichever way it goes, to come to some sort of common sense understanding. A couple questions I had was, how many vendors are signed up?
We have 20 committed vendors right now, with discussions going on with another 5 to 10 plus. I estimate having about 25 full season committed vendors, with another 6 or 7 coming in as half season or day only vendors. So it'll be a maximum of around 30 as this weekend.
And you obviously figure out your linear footage for each vendor space. So how many actual linear footage do you need of the street?
Each vendor takes up a 10 by 10 space, and right now there's more than enough space on the street to host all the vendors that we currently have and to host for parking lots, etc. We also offer that to the hatchery that we would not space any vendors on their lot. So we're in a really good spot right now with that. We're not doing the beautiful size of the entire street. We've also left spaces in front of both the galleries, the street galleries, and the wine and cheese depot to ensure that those businesses have patron access and they're not being squared off by.
And the tents would only be in the road. It wouldn't be on the sidewalks or
They're
anything.
not on the sidewalk, no. And then, so technically there would be space for a car or an emergency vehicle to pass straight through the center. And we get creative with our spacing, some of the spiritual needs, etc. But no, the tents do not go anywhere besides on.
What is the length of Depot Street from Main Street to Pleasant Street? 1,000 foot?
1 block.
Is it 1,000 foot? Did you guys measure it? Has anybody measured
I
it?
haven't measured, but I spent a lot of time staring at it like a crazy person.
I bet it's at least 1,000 feet.
So
How many feet did you say,
I'd
Brett?
say it's close to 1,000.
So if it's close to 1,000 feet and you have 30 vendors at a 10 by 10 space, realistically speaking, you're going to take up a third of the street.
Correct.
I don't think we should guess on the
Can we get a measurement? I mean, I can look at Google Maps, but I'd rather not do that.
That's what I was going to do.
Right.
So you're not gonna have any tents on the hatchery?
No, we're not gonna have any tents on the hatcheries block so that we're not, closing off any visuals of their business or potentially using patrons who are trying to, make a long with sometimes. We don't want to interfere with their business.
So you're pretty close to Frank's entrance by then. If you have,
We also don't have to space tents in front of there, I know we don't want to, make mitigations right now, but just for the farmer's market in the street, we don't necessarily have to space vendors anywhere beyond Mr. Ellison's lot toward the hatchery block. What I would love to at that point is on the other side of the street, but on their corner of the block. It's not something we need to do.
Now, if you open one side of the street for emergency vehicles or for folks to get in and out of their driveways, that opens up a safety issue with one side of being pedestrian and one side being vehicle. You'd have to put up fencing or something, would you? That would be tough.
We were going to request use of the video card for a live visit. This is a good place for people to sit.
Kesman Park would be great to use as a area.
so I just was asking that to see if then you would have access if needed from Depot Street side also, besides possibly going out the back, which you said is conditional use. I agree with Justin. It's not our place to make these adjustments. And we would like everybody to try and work together and either make it work or find another space. I understand not being on grass lawns for a farmer's market because it seems like it always rains every time you have a farmer's market.
It does get smushy.
And this is going to be a hard decision for the board because we want people to come in to Ludlow and enjoy it. And it would bring business to some of the other businesses, but we also don't want to have dissatisfied people that own property here. So,
443 feet. Sorry to interrupt. That's what I have.
yeah, that's probably right. Length of a track around the football field.
So it's roughly 200 feet until Mr. Ellison's entrance from the light. Leaves just over 200 and something feet. As a community member, I go to farmers markets. I enjoy farmers markets. I go to the Londonderry, the West River one is what they call it, and parking is absolutely savage over there. It's right at an intersection of a T. But it's very, very prominent. It brings a lot of business to the area, and everybody's always having a good time and in high spirits. And it's kind of a beacon of what a farmer's market in Vermont could do and should do. Unfortunately, the one at OMS never really was of the same caliber, in my opinion, of visiting them. So, I don't know. What are we thinking, Chair?
Do we have a motion? Is Noah trying to talk to us or he's just on watching?
observing.
Mr. Chair, in
Yes.
the last meeting, I was a spectator. I told you I wasn't on the board, but I thought that your board had requested some kind of letters from the market, from the budding property owners and our
Should be all in your
businesses.
pack.
We did.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Julie.
We did get a lot of positive feedback. One other person that was not about it was Paula Pollender. Did not want it. Everybody else on the street that we heard from was for it, although I think most of them did have some concerns about the parking, being out on Main Street.
We have 6 yeses, and I haven't counted. I think there's 5 no's. That includes tenants. We didn't hear anything from the hatchery. Seems like you guys have spoken with them, and the understanding is to not block their area.
We were in communication with them, I should be transparent, they didn't vocally support us, but they did not vocally deny us, and we did have some good conversations along the way about how the farmers market can support them and make sure that we're not their business.
The first time I heard about this was at our March 5th meeting. And I think the board at that time said, if we have 50% yays to nays, we would discuss it and move forward with it. As it stands now, we have 5 no's, including the tenants, to 6 yeses. That's a slim margin. And our goal, my goal as a community member and as a village trustee member, is not to create unnecessary friction, but I do see a lot of numerous benefits with having the farmers market on Depot Street. And I hear all the cons against it, but I also will rely on our emergency services. So if we've spoken with the ambulances and they say, yes, it's not a problem, we can get to those folks. If we spoke to the chief of police and he says, yes, traffic's not going to be impeded. I'm not a traffic expert. I'm not an ambulance driver. So I have to rely on the opinions of the professionals who we hire. With that being said, I don't know, what we want to do here tonight. Are we looking for a motion tonight to put this into motion?
I think in the interest of this is, 2 months that this has happened, there needs to be a decision made. I know the market has people that are, if it is going to happen, they'll have to get that to their vendors, and if not, we can move a different direction.
If I may, my mother is also a tenant. She also, so that would be the 6.
One of my tenants too, that the chef at the one location there at Foxford, he cannot make it tonight. He's totally racist to it. Sam,
Do you have any tenants who are in favor?
no.
How many tenants do you have in that building, Mr. Ellison?
Sunday.
One has to abstain.
Ms. Childs.
Again, Abby Childs, 320 East Lake. I just want to confirm, on the March 5th meeting, the trustees had asked us to get 50% of business only approval. It had nothing to say about the property owners or tenants. That was not part of our conversation, as I remember. It's something that I don't think any of us were really thinking about, because I think we were maybe under the impression that people would like a farmer's market. But that is where we ended it in that meeting. And I do think that we should honor that as what was said in that meeting. But at the same time, I do really respect being a tenant. If I can think back to when I was a tenant on Depot Street on the other side, we would have people park in the mill parking lot that weren't mill people, and it was a stressful thing sometimes. But I still just think that all of those issues don't necessarily, to me, feel as though we should take away a farmer's market space for local vendors. Thank you.
Mr. Ellison.
I'm all in favor of farmers market, it's just location. I have it in the community, it's fine. Not there.
Mr. Silvestri, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to kind of look at this issue a little bit more objectively. So Depot Street from Main Street to Pleasant, that is the heart of our commercial district. So as far as walkability, as far as, you know, where there is accessible parking to walk to that area, I personally can't think of a better place to have a farmer's market. I understand there's always going to be issues with change and having to adapt to a new routine, I guess, on a Sunday, but it seems like there is room there for solutions. And I'd be hard pressed to believe that the ambulance on Sunday is not going to be parked probably right on the corner of Pleasant Street and Depot, just sitting there. So when you say think of another area, I can't think of an area better suited for this, just based upon even our zoning regs and where we're actually trying to direct people to our businesses and to really kind of congregate in our community downtown center. So that's just more of my objective observation of this conversation, if that holds any weight.
Thank you, Mr. Silvestri. Our goal as a board is not to jeopardize the safety or the personal property. That's what I'm thinking. Now, I think that both of those obstacles are going to be achievable, and we're able to block off private property, and we're able to get the emergency services in based on conversations that were had. So I'll make a motion to move forward with the farmers market on Depot Street for this season.
I will second that. I think we should try it for 1 year. If it does not work out, we'll have to find another space.
And I also think that this board has given clear direction to the farmers market board, and to be fair to the property owners, that the property owner has every right not to allow any singular person or vehicle onto that property. And I think if signs need to be made, if barriers need to be put up, if people need to volunteer to make sure that those lots aren't infringed upon, those are all great ideas. And I think, alluding to Mr. Silvestri, with the ambulance, they're going to be there. I would most assuredly assume that. And I saw the police officers walking during the fundraiser. So there's going to be ample emergency service professionals on site.
Have we at all addressed the noise concerns? Of the,
Now,
I didn't hear George.
The
I
noise
just haven't
concerns.
heard anybody address the noise concerns.
Now, the noise ordinance in the village plan is a certain decibel for a certain amount of time without any hour restrictions. Is that correct? So as long as those guidelines are adhered to, I wouldn't assume that there's a problem. Mr.
Go ahead,
Ellison.
Frank.
Decibel problem, it's going to be all the noise from this all suddenly happening, all these people, all the vendors coming in, all the people coming in. It's going to be noisy, it's going to change the integrity of that area.
Point taken. Thank you.
I know you have a motion on the board. I understand that, and you have a second. I think that in good consciousness, I am 100% agreeable with the farmer's market, but I can't vote in favor until we have a community. Because the farmer's market's supposed to be about community. If we can't work with the community that lives right here and all their lives, he's lived here his whole life, their families. These are my neighbors in spirit. We all live together. And I don't think one person here is against the market at all. Not one person. I heard one person say, I don't want a farmer's market. Is there any way that we could even, we gave it the one trial run. We never gave it a trial run on a Sunday.
Well, you wouldn't be able to move a farmer's market
From one place to the other. No, I'm just saying, we've never done a trial on a Sunday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
That is true.
We done it on a weeknight, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
I think it was
I
an
wasn't
evening that fundraiser was.
I don't know. I guess in fairness, I don't know how to do it. If there's any way there could be a motion that we could give it a trial to see how it goes, in fairness to all these people. I don't know, at that location, that's sealed for a whole year. And they have no recourse after it's been.
Well, we
Really?
want to, our job is to address the issues.
I understand that, and I think that the noise is an issue.
The noise is an issue. It can be disruptive, I'm sure. But there's snow plows that go by at 4 a.m. and disrupt my guests trying to sleep. There's just noise is kind of a part of living in a downtown village. So while I understand the noise issue, and God knows I just live up the hill, so I'd hear it too, with my sleeping daughter. But I'm trying to look at it as what's beneficial to everybody as a whole. And this seems like a pretty hot button issue, and I don't want to infringe on property rights, which I think we've made clear. I don't want to jeopardize folks' health or their ability to restrict or freedom of travel, which I'm hoping we can address as well with clever communication and understanding about that. But it's not, for me, it's not necessarily, we're not supposed to goal keep this. It's to use the pavement and the road. So that, I don't know, that's my understanding of it. What do you think, Chair?
Any more
We
discussion?
have a motion, yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay. And I'm
Going forward, if you don't need to speak with my uncle to see things that you can do to work out, because I don't think he was ever approached.
Absolutely. And we had conversations last week. We had 2 different phone conversations, and I just kind of on the side. I want to apologize that Mr. Ellison, you weren't approached initially. We were asked to get the approval of the businesses on Depot Street and not the property management. And I think that was just something that's lost in translation. But by no means did we intend to step over. We were not considering doing this. We were just pursuing the action that the trustees had given us.
You could help the department to make sure.
And I would like to state, if this is a continuing problem and we hear multiple complaints, we'll definitely have to address it and understand that.
I'll make sure that's in the notes that you just said.
Yep.
If multiple complaints, we will address.
I never done that, I never did, but we just wanna make sure that these tenants, because they are taking part. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Approve V-Trans financial plan, code standards and certificate of compliance.
So you have that, or I have that copy, just the annual town highway financial plans and state bridge and code standards that we are required to adopt.
Nothing has changed from last year.
Nothing has changed.
I'd make a motion to approve the V-Trans financial plan, codes and standards and certificate of compliance as presented to the town manager.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Julie. Can you speak up just a little bit? Because I can't.
Actually, I'm sorry. This will only be till Thursday.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm sorry. Usually it's the opposite. I'm too noisy.
Set date for ARPA funds meeting.
So we've talked about having the ARPA funds meeting. Select board set theirs to April 17th at 6. I would entertain the idea of having ours for the village to begin discussion of the allocation of the ARPA funds for April 17th at 5.
Now, Mr. McNamara, can we not have a joint ARPA funds meeting?
I mean, we could. We're talking two different entities and two different funds, so you'd have to separate. You're making two different votes. That's kind of why I said you could do them back to back. I mean, you could have a joint meeting, but you'd have to have. You're kind of having two different conversations. It's not as though the boards are making one joint decision.
I understand, but the town has expressed interest, and citizens and board members alike have expressed interest in combining the boards, and potentially, it wouldn't be out of the realm of the possibility to have one project that Ludlow puts the funds in, both
Correct.
town and village.
Yep. So let's.
I don't know how that works.
Well,
Maybe
that's great. I mean, but if we want to have that meeting and you're going to be there, but Bob and Julie, if you're available are you guys good with the 17th at 6?
Do you guys want to even do a joint meeting, or should we do a separate one?
I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
I think we should do a separate. Go
I
ahead,
think
Scott.
that would be tough, Justin, until we do merge.
We should have a first separate meeting.
Your first meeting should be separate.
And then we can do joints later.
Agree on certain things, we can actually get together afterwards.
I appreciate that insight.
So does 5 o'clock on the 17th work?
Yeah, sure.
Julie, does that work?
I'm sorry.
5 o'clock on the 17th?
I'll be here.
Okay.
I'm going to add it to my calendar so I don't forget real quick.
I gotta go home and write it on my calendar.
Old school, I like
I
it.
have to do this.
Okay, so other business.
So other business, you'll see we have 15 Commonwealth Ave listed here. We kind of discussed this previously in March, so I needed a little bit of clarification for this. So this is a property on 15 Commonwealth Ave that in the 80s burned due to a fire. Since then, the property has been sold, and it is still a lot, has not been built, but the owner is anticipating building and applying for permits on the property. He currently pays for an allocation, a water sewer allocation, sewer here, for what is a 1 to 3 bedroom allocation. There is nowhere, we don't have anywhere in the files that we can find of exactly how many bedrooms the original building, therefore allocation was. So this is kind of a bookkeeping issue. I made the recommendation to the water commissioners, and I do the same to this board, that we go on record as saying that this is a 3-bedroom allocation. It does nothing to change the payment or the billing, but rather if he builds a 1, 2, or a 3-bedroom allocation, he has the allocation. If they build a 4-bedroom, now they have to come back and apply for the additional allocation. It's just more of a record keeping piece here.
What are the buildings on the Google Maps?
Yeah, I'd have to look. I just know it was kind of
There's
vacant.
nothing. There's
nothing there.
There's nothing there.
That's that blank lot as you start up on the right.
I mean, if we're looking to just say he has a 3-bedroom.
Yeah, so we just need a motion and a vote for we're going to record it as and enter it as a 3-bedroom allocation.
I would make that motion. I make a motion to adjust the parcel 15 Commonwealth Avenue to a 3-bedroom sewer allocation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. So, Mr. McNamara, just on a side note, as I was looking up, what's the deal with 81 Main Street, the location of the old stone house that we knocked down at our cost? with the promise of maybe turning that into a park or a parking lot?
I'd have to look. I remember it's every time I drive by it, I say, "Oh, what's going on there? What are we doing?" But I can get an answer on where the
Now,
status is.
that was done in good faith by the village, and we didn't have the funds to really necessarily do that, but that had to come down. And I believe the property owner wanted to do something beneficial. Did the town pay for that?
I can look and get an answer on exactly what the status of that
Just like
is.
to check in on it.
For other business B, we had added
Yes.
5K, 5-alarm 5K put on by the fire department at on August 31st, 9 a.m. This was done last year for the first time as a fire department fundraiser. Tremendous event starting at the high school community center, going down Main Street, up High Street, coming out down off of Doug Road and back up Main Street to with a couple duck offs onto Pleasant Street. Tremendous event, great turnout. I survived it, so anybody else, I thrived. My son took off running. I thought I'd catch up with him. I never saw him again, so I got beat by a 9-year-old. So I would ask that we approve that. It will go to the town as well because part of it is, a brief portion of it is in outside the village, but great event. I would ask the village trustees to approve for another year.
I would make a motion to approve the use of our town for the 5-alarm 5K through the fire department.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Municipal manager updates.
So just, very brief, kind of, as I said, post-town meeting, village trustees meeting, start to go into, a little bit of a different mindset in my position. You kind of looking at kind of like we'll say a fresh start. It's hopefully a somewhat normal year going to the summer. We have a lot of focus, with some of the departments on, cleaning up, but tidying up some of the things that we had to step over last year during the flood just to get things done. So focus on, kind of a cleanup revitalization phase in the village a little bit. Just again, we did it so much during the flood and after that there were certain things that you had to step over to say, hey, this can wait and we got bigger things to do. So that's on top of it. We have applied for the second time for the Class 2 paving grant for the access road. The top 3/4 is being done by the town. So that has been bid out and approved by Fuller Sand and Gravel. Hopefully we will secure the funds to do that bottom, section from the trestle down. If for some reason we don't secure those funds, I think we need to do our best to try and find those funds. It's probably about $60,000 to get that done one way or the other. The other big ticket right now is, movement on the wastewater plant. We continue to work with FEMA on that. We're in a 3-piece phase right now where FEMA wants to see what it would cost to put the wastewater plant back pre-disaster, then put it back with resiliency, and then essentially, if we do have where there is, a slight chance of movement in moving the plant.
What is are we going to clean out under that bridge? Isn't there still a tree and a bunch of debris blocks?
I think there's a playhouse under there too. So there's a playhouse.
We should probably.
Yeah. So that is part. So yes, and obviously that comes to that. We're only allowed to get in the rivers during a certain time. So once the water levels go down, we'll jump in there and get going on that as well.
Looks like I thought there's an old bridge abutment just beyond that sticks out.
There is. Now the river has cut either side of it, which is a concern.
Yeah.
But now, if you recall, Mr. Heidsmith hung that old play school car on the bridge for a long time after the flood. So that's really, those are the big ones right now.
I can't help it. I just have to say this. the state wants us to do all of this, build back better, and they won't let us get into our rivers to fix the debris and dredge what actually needs to be done to actually help this town. So I just want to put that on record. I think that that's a joke. I think it's laughable.
I had one other question on the paving. I don't know what Ron had slated for the village this year, but if we had to come up, would it be more beneficial to get that lower half of the access road than maybe what he had planned?
Absolutely.
Just a
I think
thought.
that's, and at our next meeting for May, we're looking, so the select board last night encumbered about $102,000 for pavement retreatment that we didn't use. The village has currently about $60,000 in road construction and funds that we're probably not going to use, which I think would be wise to encumber over to the next fiscal year to use for that. Because again, it'll be in that range of 50 to 60,000.
Does that
to do that?
Does that the grant for that upper part, did that have to happen this
was
July?
the year. No, it's got to be done. I think that it's not a fiscal year, but it has to be done by the fall.
Okay.
I don't know what the specific.
I
date
wasn't
is.
sure.
So.
Used by when?
Because that might
By the fall.
That might change things.
Yeah. So they're going to, on that road, they're going to come in and assuming that we make the decision to do the whole thing, either way, they're going to take that down before the mountain reopens for the summer. So it'll be dirt, a gravel base until the fall, then we'll pave it.
Mr. McNamara, looking at your manager updates, I see that the Water Commission has met. Has there been any discussion amongst the Water Commission commissioners about the age of the water pipes?
Yes. So we have we're in the process of a asset management plan, putting that together, Aldrich and Elliott. So they are looking at that as well. And that will give us an idea because we're also the Commissioner's Water Department. We have our asset management plan that we're dealing with, but also we're up against a state and federal, I believe, mandate to have a lead service line. So a lot of houses here, their service lines are lead. We have to have an inventory of that all done by October.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, it's a pain. So we have to have that all done by October, then in turn have a plan to replace that. That plan just to have the lead line service inventory done is about $100,000. So we have a grant or a loan that's almost 100% forgivable. So essentially we're not paying for it, but it's tough. Because in this town, majority of the time right now where you have a water leak, or a line that's broken, it's because for some reason that lead service line has broken. They're very easy to break.
I want to just state this real quick. I read an article from 1948 in a local paper in Ludlow at the time. They were celebrating 50 years of water lines, meaning that they were laid in 1898.
Yeah.
So they're in desperate need of repair. So thank you for on that.
As you start to open these up, and we look at the one. There was one on Main Street. We had a water leak on Main Street, and it might have been August. It wasn't too long after the flood, and it was right in front of the Book Nook. And that was in large part due to the age of the lines and the fact that we had hundreds of dump trucks every day on the road, but it just goes to show, those lines are constantly being pounded on. And when you have pipes that are that aged, that's going to happen. Yeah. It's just a matter of time.
And how many frost freeze cycles can they possibly go through? Yeah. I know that they're supposed to be down lower than the freeze line, but and Main and Mountain had a broken water line, and it's because it used to be a sidewalk out where the patio was, and eventually that thing came down and cracked the water main.
Yeah. The good thing is that we've figured it out, I think, that generally speaking, most water leaks are gonna happen at Friday at about 3 o'clock.
Of course, yeah.
We figured that out.
When did it
At
start?
about Friday at 3 o'clock. And if you guys, I just need you to sign this. There.
Yep.
So that's all I got.
Set date for next meeting, May 7th, 2024.
I will, this is my annual break from Vermont, so I will be gone. But I'll recuse myself from the vote since I probably will be here maybe on Zoom if I can.
Sign both.
Yes, please. Yep, so that meeting is good.
And we need to sign warrant orders.
I think they were done.
I
don't know
didn't
if
sign
I signed
anything.
Thank you, sir.
And do we need an executive session?
We do not.
Awesome. And do I have a motion?
Before we adjourn, can I just ask Bob, it might be about time. Is it possible to get the agendas and stuff mailed to me or
Yes.
in the future, just so I know what's happening?
Yeah.
They can be mailed to you, found in your mailbox. But yeah, if you
Thank you.
ask
she
Diane,
did.
she'll-
Help me a lot.
Oh, she didn't get one.
That's what I want.
Okay.
Julie didn't get one.
I didn't get one at all, so I thought.
You will get one, Julie.
I
Say-
understand it was early.
Nope. Okay.
I think you might not have gotten one because Diane was on vacation
Torrance.
between your election.
Honestly, I just didn't wanna.
And do you have an email address?
Yes,
written
I
down? Perfect. What is it, Julie?
It's on, you have it.
You have
I
it?
have it?
You,
Yes.
if you look at the
It's
email
CC'd.
from Terry.
Yep.
It's on there.
Put it on and I can give it to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just signed it.
Mr. McNamara.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.